Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new Fallout 76 video. So today we're going to take a look at the new caravan running feature that is part of Milepost 0. So we're going to dive in, take a look at a general overview of it, how to get started with it, and how the whole system works, as well as a few tips and tricks to sort of get you rolling along with this new feature. So a little FYI before we dive in, all of the footage from this and all of the information I've got has come off the public test server, so this is late on in the test server run, but just before the update came out, so especially given that Bethesda have delayed this a little bit further, there might be a couple of small differences here and there, but I don't imagine it'll be anything massive, but a little FYI there just to keep it in mind, because this is obviously a few days before the actual update drops. So let's have a look at the content, shall we? So first up, the caravan mechanic and system, this whole element of the game, is something you can just walk into if you like. You can head straight down to Milepost 0 at the bottom of Skyline Valley. But there's also a little lead-in quest that kind of introduces the mechanics and the characters and the situation and that sort of thing if you want to do that too. I would recommend it, as it's a nice sort of introduction to the new mechanics and feature and gameplay setup here. So head down to Skyline Valley at the bottom of the map and you should see a flare in the distance in the direction of Stony Man Lookout. That's over on the east side of Skyline Valley. On the public test server, that flare wasn't showing up, so hopefully it will be there by the time we dive into the main game, but if it is not there, just head over to Stony Man Lookout anyway, and you'll be able to start this leading quest there. You'll find a whole bunch of super mutants have taken over the place, nothing new about that, and once you've battled your way through them, underneath the lookout tower itself, you find a cage with the body of a Blue Ridge Caravan guard in there. Unfortunately, he has not met a happy end. On his corpse, you'll find some information pointing you in the direction of Milepost 0, as well as asking you to pick up the stolen goods, which are nearby in the super mutant encampment, and take them back to Marley, who is running this branch of the Blue Ridge Caravan. So, if we wander across the Stony Man Lookout location, there is a dead Brahmin, and it still has all of its goods on it, so you can grab that and head off towards Milepost 0 to pick up the event. So, arriving at Milepost 0, we've got a very cool location. You can sort of head on inside, and we'll meet Marley, and she's having a discussion with the boss about whether or not there should be continued support for her endeavour at Milepost 0 here. And once that debate is over, you can deliver the supplies that you've picked up, and she'll ask you to replace the fellow whose remains we found not so long ago, and assist by accompanying Brahmin Caravans around Skyline Drive. It's the big main circular road that runs through Skyline Valley, in order to basically help her get her business off the ground. She'll also want a small investment for that, but hopefully, we'll find out soon, but hopefully the rewards should be well worth it in the end. And to be honest, there does come a point we haven't got a vast amount to spend your caps on anyway, so, it's not such a bad thing to invest in anyway, I don't think. So, Marley will ask you to run your first caravan, and that will be a nice little easy introduction into how this whole system works. So, you head back out of the Milepost 0 location, and you'll see on the map in Skyline Valley somewhere a little Brahmin head icon. It'll be somewhere on the road running around Skyline Valley, and you can fast travel straight over to that. It's a new type of public event that is triggered by players, a little bit like the way Encrypted works, in that you have to manually trigger the event and then it's available for everybody to pile in on. This kind of does the same thing. And you will see a Brahmin that you then escort around roughly a quarter of Skyline Drive. So the road is divided up into about 4 different sections, and it can appear in any one of those sections, and you have to kind of follow the Brahmin around that part of the map. Along the way, you'll be able to hurry the Brahmin along and hopefully prevent it from being killed in a number of attacks that will inevitably ensue as you wander around the road. There are all manner of dangerous creatures making Skyline Valley their home, from wild dogs and wolves all the way up to Yaoguai, so you'll need to hold those off and make sure the Brahmin doesn't get killed, otherwise your caravan will fail and you will lose your investment. That being the case, you have to invest a certain amount in your caravans in order to launch them each time. It's usually a small sum of caps, so not the end of the world, but we'd rather have the rewards and not lose the investment rather than just sort of walk away with nothing. So, accompany your Brahmin around the journey that it's making and make sure it survives. There's a couple of cool things you can do. You can give it a slap on the backside to make it run a little faster. And you might be able to use that to your advantage if you get a little lucky to try and encourage the Brahmin to get out of trouble while you pull the aggro onto yourself as well. At the end of the route, you'll find a drop-off point with a whole load of sort of Blue Ridge-themed bits and pieces around, including a deposit box that you will be able to activate to drop the supplies that you are escorting into and then finish the event that you're currently running, the caravan run. Once you do that, you'll get a bunch of rewards, most not particularly exciting, but the main one is caravan supplies. This is basically a new currency that is exclusively part of this update. You'll be able to check it under your collections list in your Pip-Boy, and you'll basically spend these at Milepost 0. So once you finish that first run, hopefully you've survived the last boss encounter that you'll get at the end. I use the term boss loosely because it's probably just a bunch of enemies that will be relatively easy to hold off. It might be a whole pack of Yaoguai that have been buffed for the event though, and in that case you could be in trouble. Useful tip though is to keep an eye on the top right corner of the screen where the quest tracker will update to activate the deposit box. As soon as that activates, you'll be able to run like crazy for the box, activate it, end the event, and prevent the potential Yaoguai from slaughtering your Brahmin. That can be a bit problematic. It is quite possible to fail at the last hurdle there. Fortunately, with a lot of other players, if you're in adventure mode, then the extra firepower should mean you've got a better chance of surviving, but if you're playing solo in particular, that can be a challenge. That said, it's only one of the possible endings, and if you haven't got Yaoguai, other enemies generally are much more manageable to deal with in this situation. So, with that done and dusted and your rewards collected, you can head back to Milepost 0. If you've failed, you can speak to Marley and do it again, and if you have succeeded, she will basically wrap the quest up there, finish the A Bump in the Road quest, and you will open up the opportunity to run basically, kind of, as many caravans as you want going forward. So this also opens up the Milepost 0 location, where you can now use the supplies you've gathered to recruit traders and make upgrades to the location and to the traders' inventories as you go along in order to get access to new and unique gear and to make the whole caravan running exercise considerably smoother. So the Milepost 0 location, incidentally, is an internal space, is instanced, so it's unique to each player, and you can sort of decorate it in a number of different ways. You have to recruit the appropriate person to do that, but it works a little bit like decorating houses in Skyrim or your house in Fallout 3, if you played either of those games. Basically, you speak to the appropriate person, pick a theme, and they will do the hard work for you. It's not somewhere you can build like a camp or a settlement in Fallout 4. It's definitely a pick it and let the game decorate it for you kind of arrangement. So, with the introduction out of the way, then we get into the main loop of the Milepost 0 caravan element, which is running individual caravans yourself in order to gain those supplies. So if you go back and talk to Marley, she will allow you to run a caravan. You can choose either a small one, a medium-sized one, or a large one. It basically just affects the amount of stuff on the Brahmin, and you get scaling rewards for that. Now, there is a kind of time-limited factor that comes in here. So basically, you can run, I'm not sure if it's quite one a day or slightly more often than that, but you can't keep running them back-to-back without hitting a cost. If you do want to run multiple caravans back-to-back, the cap investment goes up. Basically, Marley will ask you to pay an insurance premium because you're going to start attracting attention and increasing the chance of your caravan being hit and lost. So the potential for loss goes up. That's the sort of in-game explanation for it, but basically you're going to get billed if you want to run them back-to-back and grind this out quickly. If you don't want to, then every so often you'll get one free caravan run. I recommend for the free one, pick the large caravan, get as many rewards as you can with no cost. If you are going to run the quote-unquote paid caravan runs subsequent to that have a fee in caps attached to them, I strongly recommend running the medium-sized caravans, not the largest one, because when you run the largest one, the price for insuring that skyrockets, but the rewards don't increase anywhere near as much. So you get much better value for money, effectively, on the medium-sized one than you will on the large. So there's a little pro tip for you. So you then activate the caravan, and basically, as you did before in the initial run, you escort your Brahmin around Skyline Drive and collect, at the end, hopefully, more caravan supplies, which you can then spend, as we say, inside Milepost 0. And there are a number of different traders that you can spend supplies to encourage them to come and join your Blue Ridge outpost. And subsequently, once you've got them there, you can spend more supplies to upgrade the quality of their inventory. Now, based on what was on the PTS, there were 4 traders, 2 relating to the Milepost Zero location specifically, and 2 that provide stuff that you can use in a wider sense. So there is an ammo trader, so if you want to buy more ammo, that's an option. And there is an exotic goods trader, who I think will be the interesting one, who will likely have the unique and rare gear and probably camp stuff and the like as well. So that's probably going to be the most interesting person to keep an eye out for. As I was playing this on the PTS, the rewards weren't available to peruse at the time, so that's a little speculative, but you'll soon find out once you dive into the content, I am sure. I also rather suspect that Bethesda will add more traders and more things into the traders' inventories as this goes on and they expand this system. So I think it's there's a lot of room here for future expansion on Bethesda's part. My personal recommendation, though, in terms of who to get to come to your outpost first, is ask for the Brahmin Tamer, because she will make your life a lot easier. Once you start upgrading the Brahmin Tamer, she will be able to buff the Brahmin, so they will have more health, move more quickly, and that sort of thing. Basically, it will mean running subsequent caravans, once you have those buffs active, will be significantly easier, particularly when it comes to the survivability of the Brahmin. Obviously, having a lot of other players involved is going to make that easier as well, but a greater chance of success means you can get your hands on those rewards more reliably on down the line, setting yourself up for the future, really. So that will be my recommendation as a place to start, and then think about the other traders once you've got upgrades on your Brahmin. So, in a nutshell, that basically covers how the caravan running mechanic in Milepost Zero works. I've got a couple of extra tips here to go over, repeats and new tips as well that are worth bearing in mind. So, as I say, if you want to get the Brahmin to move faster, you can do that by giving it a slap on the backside. That'll generally get you around the event a bit quicker and use your time a little bit more efficiently, so that's helpful. There are buffs you can get to make the Brahmin run even faster, but they may or may not be the best choice. You have to weigh those options up yourself a little bit. I touched on this a little bit earlier as well. If the Brahmin is being attacked, you can sometimes give it a bit of a slap to make it run faster and get out of trouble. Now, the mechanic basically stops you from doing that, but after a while, the block on that will disappear, and then you can encourage the Brahmin to run on. Especially if you are solo, using that as an opportunity to get the Brahmin out of the way while you aggro any attackers and pull the fire onto yourself, thus protecting the Brahmin, is usually something that's worth keeping in mind, especially when you've got certain enemies like the wolves or gun-wielding Lost or anything like that. Then you can generally pull the aggro off the Brahmin more easily. Some enemies will probably chase after the Brahmin, but for the most part, it's a useful thing to keep in mind. You do have to wait for the game to actually allow you to do this, so it's not an immediate thing, but once in a while it can be quite handy to give you that little bit of an edge and increase the survivability during your runs. Obviously, mostly offset by having a whole load of other players with you as well. So during the final encounter of your caravan escort, you'll get not exactly a boss-type encounter, but that sort of thing. It will have more enemies, and they'll be more powerful, and this will come in just as you're approaching the end of your escort and towards the drop-off point. Keep an eye, as I said before, on that top right corner, where it says activate the deposit box. Run like hell for it, because especially if you've got a bunch of dangerous enemies, Yaoguai are the one that stands out, then being able to activate that box quickly is your best chance for success, especially if you're alone or with a small group. Because the Yaoguai I keep coming back to, because they come in groups of 4 or more, and they have been hugely buffed for the event, or at least they had on the public test server, so they were very, very tough to take down, and obviously they focus fire on the Brahmin, which is very annoying, and they put out a lot of damage on a very squishy Brahmin, and it can cause your event to fail very, very quickly at the end. So anything that can give you an edge there is worthwhile. So do keep an eye out for the opportunity to run for that activation box as quickly as possible so that you can give yourself the best chance of success there as well. But this does apply to whichever kind of final encounter you get at the end of the run. You can just make it a bit easier by activating that box sooner. As I said before, if you're running subsequent caravans and you have to pay to insure those caravans, go for the medium-sized caravan. Your cap cost to rewards gained ratio will be much better than if you go for the large one, as it just adds up better that way, or at least it did on the PTS again. Something to double check, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that will still be the same. You can keep running them. Obviously, you can jump into other people's caravan missions as well in order to get some additional rewards that way. but the game does expect you to do relatively few and space them out, presumably to make the content last a little bit longer, but it is what it is there. And as I said before, again, just a little reminder that I would recommend upgrading the Brahmin trainer first, just so your Brahmin get increased survivability. But there we go. So that is a general overview of how the caravan running mechanic will work. The location at Milepost 0 is pretty cool. I do like it, that sort of repurposing a road tunnel and turning it into a secure location to shelter in for the Blue Ridge Caravan. It's pretty cool. The decoration in there is nice. The fact you can modify the decoration, at least to some extent, is quite cool as well. Obviously, the basic set of decor that you can get is really not particularly profound. There's just a few little subtle bits here and there. I suspect once you upgrade the decoration vendor, which may well be the last thing you want to do depending on where your priorities are, then you'll get more interesting and vibrant decorative schemes, I would think, but that's not something I had the opportunity to play with on the PTS. But yeah, should be quite cool. I'm also very excited to see what the new rewards are. Obviously, if the update is out as you watch this, then you may well be a little bit more aware, but it should be fun to dive into and check that out. So yeah, hope you folks found this useful and informative. Hope it's helpful for your ongoing caravan runs. If you did like the video, please consider dropping subs and likes. I do very much appreciate. Down below, got social media links, channel memberships as well. If you want to support the channel that way, very, very much helps out. Very, very much appreciated. Yeah, do check around the channel. Loads of additional Fallout 76 content. We've got builds and guides and all manner of other things. Lots of camp stuff as well. So lots to check out there. And join us for live streams if you get the chance as well. We've got 76 on the go, of course, and a few other bits and pieces around Fallout and beyond as well. So tons and tons of content if you're looking for something to watch. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.